Hi, I'm Sonia and I help people take their power back. In this video, I want to talk about having specific affirmations, blanket affirmations, or specific or blanket thoughts and techniques in general when it comes to manifesting. So I've said it in all of my videos, it is your consistent thoughts, the thoughts that you choose to think in the moment that are going to change the experiences that you are having. When I first got into the law of assumption, it was after years of law of attraction. And if you didn't see my last video, I talked about a lot more of my story and how even before that, like, I was absolutely not into any of this, didn't believe it, thought it was bullshit until it piqued my interest and I wanted to understand. And that was how I started to learn about this and understand this. And when I first got into it, I was coming at it from the way I have did everything else in my life, how I became successful at anything else, right? I learned about it and like did things to get a result. So I thought that I had to do things in order to get a result. That's where all those techniques come from, especially in the law of attraction communities, right? The techniques don't manifest. And I had heard people say that, but I did not understand what they meant until I started to understand that it is my thoughts. I thought that I had to do something and do it in a specific way, and if I didn't do it correctly, it wasn't going to work, just like I had been taught about other things, like cooking food. Like, if you don't follow the recipe, it's not going to turn out right. That's not what manifestation is, and it's not how it works. The reason people have a hard time understanding this is because it is unique to everyone. You have been manifesting your entire life. I know people don't want to hear that, but it is true. And I have had a lot of shit in my past that I didn't want to accept that is true, but once I realized what was actually happening, I was like, that makes sense. When we are kids, we are taught to, or we naturally rely on the outside world. When you are a newborn baby, you are forced to rely on your caregivers, whoever that may be, to keep you alive. You are forced. You don't have any control over anything other than to like cry about it. It is a scientific fact that if you just like put a baby in a cupboard, they would die from neglect. Not before they would even die of like starvation, I believe. Like, they need emotional connection. They rely on their caregivers to keep them alive. From the time you are born, you are conditioned to rely on the outside for feedback. That is how you create your beliefs. And if you don't have somebody teaching you from when you're born, you are taught to look to the outside to make assumptions about what's happening, about what is true, and then accept it as fact. That is why if you have tried techniques, they did not work, because it's not the technique that is manifesting, it is you. Your thoughts create what you are experiencing. They have your entire life. You weren't taught that, so you've never looked at the world through that perspective. So you're looking for a technique, a thing to do to shift your experience, and you do the things and then it doesn't work. Right? It's not the technique. It's the decision that the technique is going to work that has gotten people results if that technique worked for them. But if that shit does not work for you, it is because you do not tell yourself that it is going to. That is where something like prayers or witchcraft or like any religion. Any religion is teaching you this shit. It's all the same thing. Put the belief in that what we are doing is going to change something, and it will. So if you don't believe in any of that stuff, like I didn't used to, I didn't believe in any of that shit. So I had to understand that what's at the bottom of all of it is your thoughts, what you choose to tell yourself, what you choose to tell yourself about the techniques. And that is where it comes down. For me, I call it affirmations because I think in words. But if you think in pictures, however you think, thinking about things the way you want them to be instead of the way they are based on what you're currently experiencing. Rejecting what you experienced as a baby, having to rely on the outside world, and going internal. And that is where you get your blanket affirmations and your specific affirmations. So once I got into the law of assumption, I let go of all the bullshit of the law of attraction techniques. And I sometimes will script, but that's just because my brain is and I need something to focus on. So having something to keep my attention allows me to be more in the state. The more I get into this, the further I go with it, the easier it is to just do it consistently, and I don't really think about it. Like, this is what I choose to do and how I choose to live my life. So I remember when I was first getting into law of assumption, finding Neville Goddard and like starting to learn about Neville. And I remember learning about remember when. Neville being like, tell yourself, remember when this, and this. What that is not a tell yourself for so long that you remember when. It is a technique to use in the moment. Just like a blanket affirmation, so a general affirmation like, isn't it wonderful, or everything's perfect, or I always get what I want. Or a specific affirmation, I'm getting this much money, I'm with this person in this relationship, and this is how life is, whatever. Remember when is a technique that you can use in the moment to remind yourself that you have what you want. It's not about a technique of do this and then it's done. Unless you believe that's what's going to happen, prayer, spell work, that's why it works, is because the people who do that and then get a result believe it's going to. Something that hit me at one point, like I remember being told as a kid, like the Native Americans believed that if they did a dance, like they had special ceremonies and dances they would do and it would make it rain. And I was like, what? It didn't hit me until I was an adult doing this stuff. It's like they believed that stuff, which means it was true for them. Whatever you believe is true is true. You don't start to believe something until you have experienced it. You are the one creating your reality. There are no set rules and a set way of how to do this correctly or incorrectly. But what you tell yourself and what you choose to assume, your assumptions are your thoughts, whether you see them, whether you hear them, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. However this is, whatever's going on up here, the assumptions you are making off of what is currently happening, which is what you are trained to do from birth, regardless of what happened with your family, you don't have a choice as a baby but to rely on the outer world. Now you know better. So it's time to do better. It's time to be like, okay, that's what's happening right now. It's just a manifestation of my old thoughts, and that's okay. Right now, I choose the thoughts that make me happy. The thoughts that make me feel like I have what I want. At first, making that switch is very uncomfortable because all the objections are going to come to the surface, and your only job, the only technique you need is to tell them to go fuck themselves. Absolutely not. I don't care. This is what's true now. And you choose that, and you choose that, and you choose that, and you choose it, and you choose it, and you choose it until your outer world reflects your inner world. If you have yet to prove to yourself that your thoughts create your reality, check out my course that is here on YouTube, Create Your Manifestation Lifestyle. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, comment, share, all the things. Thank you so much for watching. Love and light.